I can personally say that in the year and a half that I've been doing crypto art, it's been like the most lucrative market that I've been selling in.
Wow.
I've had more success selling art as a crypto artist than as a fine artist selling prints on a digital store. I I mean, I guess I don't want to like speculate too much, but I just think there's a great market for it, and there's a lot of people with cryptocurrency that want to buy stuff.
Hey peeps, what's up? I'm Anne Marie Alanis, and this is Rare Digital Bird, a series about artists, their creations, and their experiences, both good and bad, using blockchain technology. Now, just in case you don't know what blockchains are, they're essentially operating system softwares like Windows, Mac OS, or iOS. They live on the internet, and you can build things on top of them, just like the apps on your phone. The most common blockchains you'll hear about are Bitcoin and Ethereum, but there are many other projects working to improve on these systems, like Nervos. The idea for the Rare Digital Bird series grew out of a conversation I had with a couple of members from the Nervos community. Nervos is an innovative blockchain. You can think of it as a small digital computer that's more powerful than Ethereum, and any developer can upgrade it. People have built a variety of things on blockchains, including art marketplaces and virtual galleries, which offer benefits like royalties, provenance, and digital certificates of authenticity. Now, it's in its early stages of development, which means that this is a critical time for us to start tapping the minds of pioneering artists already using blockchain, so the developers can create something better. The biggest takeaway that I got from the conversation is that art does not evolve in a vacuum. The medium in which you create art is just as important. Blockchain is a new medium. Now, if you're an artist who's considering exploring blockchain tech, or if you're a blockchain dev interested in creating something better that artists will want to use, consider clicking on the subscribe button and the notification bell. Now, for our very first episode, I am super excited for today's guest, Jared Scott. Jared is first and foremost a glitch artist. He's also a graphic designer and photographer, as well as a rare digital artist slash blockchain artist slash crypto artist. They're kind of interchangeable depending on who you ask. He's been in online magazines Inverse and TechCrunch. His work has been featured in the shows Knights of the Living Glitch Art in Minneapolis, Fubar in Croatia, Digital Decade's Future Selves in London, and Rare Digital Art Feast in San Francisco. Currently, he's exhibiting in the Maker's Place Doom District Art Gallery in a blockchain-based virtual world called CryptoVoxels. Notably, he's the very first ambassador for the ever-growing, robust Maker's Place art community on Discord. Welcome, Jared. How
Thank
are you
you.
doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Um, so I guess we should start from the very beginning. Uh, what during your childhood, did you have any experiences um, that kind of started you off on this artistic journey?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was like a really young kid, for some reason, I wanted to be a cartoonist, and then I very quickly learned I had no ability to draw whatsoever. But another thing that kind of serendipitously happened was I had really poor eyesight as a kid. Like in the second grade, I had to get these huge, thick glasses, and I hated them. And I'd take them off whenever I could. And then by taking them off, that's kind of when I realized we'd be driving around at night with my parents. And if I took my glasses off, my eyes were so bad that all of the night lights and the traffic lights and the buildings, they would turn into like these giant spheres of light and color. And they're like these like will-o'-the-wisps almost. And it was kind of like this little magical world that I could escape to whenever I wanted. And I think that really kind of gave me this first idea of like distorting reality and how there can be hidden worlds And I think like that's something I've kind of experimented with many different mediums and different art styles. And I think that's like the one through line that I can like see looking back is like I'm always trying to distort or corrupt a reality to kind of like create this little hidden world. And it really makes me think of, just taking my glasses off and looking at the lights at nighttime.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had astigmatism growing up, and that definitely was not my biggest takeaway. So that's like
Yeah.
you're taking it as next level up. Like, so that's awesome. Um,
Well, I don't know how like cognizant I was of it at the time. I was just kind of like, oh, this is really cool. And then it wasn't until probably my freshman year of my undergrad when I took my first like college photography course, and we had a project where we had to like find a new professional photographer, study their work, and then kind of like make a project that is kind of in reference to them or inspired by them. And I came across this German photographer. Her name is Uta Barth, and she takes these like amazing photos with like no depth of field whatsoever. So like they're just like these like super blurry abstract images, but she'll like go on like the streets of like a city, so you kind of get this like really vague idea of a city, but it's very blurred and everything's very soft. And again, those like giant spherical green and red lights would show up in it, and I was like, oh, that's what I used to see. And then that's what kind of got me into abstract photography, and then it kind of all just exploded from there.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Very cool. So, as far as like, I know that you had mentioned to me before that there was a point in time when you kind of lost interest in what you were doing. Can you talk about that? Like, it seems like you were like lost and how you found yourself.
Yeah, totally. So I got I went to the University of Minnesota Duluth. I guess I've been talking about the school and I haven't mentioned where it was. And I got a degree in studio art with an emphasis in digital art and photography. So I was taking photography classes and graphic design classes and some 3D stuff. And I think I got really conditioned by having an instructor give me a prompt to then make a project from. Like, here's a project, go do it. And then once I graduated and I no longer had someone telling me to do something, I just stopped making art. Like, I graduated, I tried to get into grad school and it didn't happen, so I just kind of started working and had jobs, and I kind of just lost the passion to make stuff. And then, I was still I'd shoot photos sometimes, but it really wasn't like anything substantial. And it was I graduated in 2012, and it probably wasn't until like about 2016 that I kind of started things back up. I felt like my creative endeavors had just been on pause, or like they're in this like weird stasis. And one day, I think I was on Facebook or Instagram or something, and I saw that a friend of mine had just finished doing this challenge where she tried to like take a picture every day for a year, just as like a little fun thing to do. And it said that it like really reignited her passion for photography, and it was kind of really cool to like see how much her work changed from day one to day 365. And I was like, this seems like a good way to kind of trick myself into start making things again. And I knew that I didn't want to do just like straight up photography. That wasn't what my degree was in, but I was kind of like, I wouldn't say disinterested in it, but I was a lot more interested in kind of like the post-processing work of photography. After I took pictures, I liked editing them and playing with them in like Photoshop way more than actually taking them. So I was like, what can I do every day for a year that I could feasibly do on top of like working a day job. Like if I only have a couple hours to work on this, and it kind of reminded me of this thing I had learned about a little bit in college, glitch art, and some of my favorite artists were glitch artists, but I never really tried it that seriously. And there was like kind of some cool little phone apps you could use to do it. So I'm like, I could snap a picture with my phone and glitch it with an app, and that's something I could feasibly do in a day. And then throughout the year, I started kind of experimenting and learning other ways to glitch, and it kind of just went from there. And now here I am today. And it kind of all started with that project.
Yeah, 365 days. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I thought when we first, so I mean, I don't know if the audience knows, but I used to work for Maker's Place, the community marketing specialist, and that's actually how Jared and I actually met.
Yeah.
And he actually was one of the only artists that did a piece every single day for 100 days. And so now I know how you were able to do that, because you were doing it for a whole year, which is crazy. Like, are there any other I guess challenges that are like that for a whole year? Or is that, because I'm pretty sure that's something that you created, right? The J-Lich.
Yeah. So like I called it Glitch 365.
Right, okay.
Glitch was like just this term I came up with that, my name's Jared and I was making glitch art. So I called it J. It's the word glitch, but it has a J instead of a G.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like my little branding
that's
thing.
Awesome.
So, there's lots of people that I think do like they call them like everydays on some of the social media. Like there's this one guy. He's very famous. His name's Beeple, Beeple, Mike Beeple. He's been doing images every day for, I think, going on 13 years now.
Oh my God! Okay.
And like he's been like a huge inspiration. He's very big in like the cinema 4D, 3D animation world.
Uh-huh.
And it all kind of is very similar to mine. It started as a way of like, how can I get better at this? How can I reignite my passion for something? And it was just, I'm going to make something every day for a year. And some years he focuses on photography, some years it's graphic design. And he's like, there's no better way to get better at something than to just do one every day. Even if the first one's bad, by the next 10 days it'll get better. So that like, and I will say, speaking to your 100-day project, I would say that your 100-day project was way harder than Glitch 365 because I couldn't make something until I got the prompt from you. Every day, Anne would post a prompt about what we needed to make. And so, like, with the Glitch 365, I could kind of cheat a little bit where it's like if I have, like, a day with nothing going on, I could, like, make 5 of them and knock them out. If I had to. I tried not to, but with the 100-day project at Maker's Place, I literally, like, it was 8 or 9 a.m. every morning. I'd get the prompt, and then it was like, boom, I have 24 hours to make something for it. So, like, that was, I will say, like, with the Glitch 365, and actually I'm, like, in the middle of another 100-day project right now, another self-imposed one. Both of those I had to cheat a little bit on. Like, there'd be a day or two I missed. The 100-day project with Maker's Place was like the first time that I actually, for 100 days straight, made something from start to finish. That was like a gauntlet.
Yeah, when I was coming up with the prompts for 100-day, like I had a whole bunch of prompts at first, and then after a while I was just like, I'm just so busy, I can't do the prompts ahead of time. And so every morning, like at around, like, I don't know, sometime before, somewhere between 8 and 8:30, or somewhere around there, 7:30, I can't even remember anymore. I would be in the car, and my friend and roommate would be driving us to the city to go to work, and I'd be like, okay, you have to shut up. I have to start thinking about what the artists have to draw or have to, create. And I would come up with, I tried to make it colorful, or the language, to help with inspiring all the artists. And so, yeah, it was 100 days of that. It was just like, it was a lot.
It was a lot. And I did appreciate all the different prompts, though, because, like, it really forced me to go to my comfort zone. Because, like, knowing me, I have, like, trends and things I can fall back onto for, like, subject matter for my pieces. You know, usually kind of dark or broody or cyberpunky or
Yeah.
edgy stuff. And, like, with your stuff, I had to do a lot of, like, more happier themed things, which was it was fun because, like, that's stuff I usually
Oh,
don't
wow.
make all that much.
That's interesting. Those
Yeah.
happier theme things. I guess it kind of, maybe I was projecting my own kind of like view of life because I tend to be more happy about
Yeah.
things. I mean,
No, it's good.
there were points where I think we like a prompt was about like, I don't know, like viruses or bacteria or things that live on you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen was it it's a documentary about like all the bacteria and little bugs that live on your body
Ooh.
and in you. You've never seen that one?
I don't think I've seen it, but
That's what inspired me with the whole like bacteria prompt. Yeah, I think it's live on us, life on us. I think
Life
it's
on
the
Us.
yeah. I don't
I'm
know
sure
if
it's
you
fascinating and horrifying at
yeah,
the same time.
it is. It is. So that's probably the only thing maybe that was horrifying and not happy. Um, so we're talking about glitch art, and I guess a lot of people may not know about it. So if you could like tell me about or tell us about what glitch art is, and also like all the processes, which I think is really interesting. Um,
Totally.
yeah.
So, I mean, simply put, I think everyone's familiar with, like, the idea of a glitch. It's technology. And it doesn't have to be technology, but something not working as it should. Something that's not working as it was intended to. You know, your internet connection glitches out, your signal on the TV. Like, I'm sure everyone's been watching Netflix, and all of a sudden you kind of see, like, the pixels kind of stay on the screen for a little bit, and you get, like, a weird effect.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there is a very popular form of glitch art, but then people take the glitches and intentionally apply that effect to something. So, like, if you're watching Netflix and you notice, like, there's a character on the screen and all of a sudden they kind of move, but, like, there's still kind of a ghostly, blocky image of them that kind of disseminates, that's called data moshing.
Okay.
There's so many terms, and, like, there's ones I don't even, like, know about or use all that well, but so data moshing is usually done with video, and it's kind of just that process of, like, keeping pixels on screen when they're meant to, like, be turned off. So you kind of get these, like, weird monstrosity forms that can appear on the screen. Predominantly, what my images use is a technique called pixel sorting. There's a variety of ways to achieve this at this point. Basically, what pixel sorting is a program has a script that basically takes an image or a JPEG, and then based on the light and dark values of the pixels, will separate it to different parts of the screen. So that's how you kind of get that, like, weird, wavy, stretched, spiky kind of effect on the image.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the easiest ways someone can do it is if you have Photoshop. If you open up Photoshop, put an image in there, and you go to, like, the pre-built effects in Photoshop, there's one called Wind. That's pixel sorting right there.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, there's a ton of ways to do it now, and, like, one of the most controversial things in the glitch art community is how good the apps are getting at it. There's a old guard of elitist, old school glitch artists who are very set in the ways of, you have to do glitch art traditionally. You have to actually corrupt a file. You have to like have a VHS with a magnet, and you actually corrupt the magnetic tape on the VHS, because there's all these awesome phone apps you can download. Glitch Lab, Decimate. There's a ton of them that can, like, with a click of one button, recreate this effect that people used to like spend hours trying to manipulate and perfect. And I don't blame them for being a little bitter, because it's kind of like, but it's the same thing with like how digital photography has kind of consumed darkroom photography, because it's just so much more cost effective and quick, and it also just allows so many more people to get in on it without having to have all this expensive old school analog equipment or anything like that. So, and then I don't need to ramble on about this forever, but like I'm looking to my left right now and I'm recording audio with Audacity. It's a free to download audio program. You can actually glitch images with Audacity. There's a way to open up static images in Audacity, and Audacity will convert it into a sound file. I would not recommend you hit play on it, because it's going to just sound like horrible static high-pitched noise. But then you can apply audio filters to it, resave it as an image, and it's kind of like a toss of the dice of what's going to happen. You can get really crazy effects from it.
That's awesome.
One other quick one. Anyone with a Mac can do this. If you open up the WordPad app on your Mac, and you go to File Open, and you try to open a JPEG in it, it'll bring up this giant list of just, it looks like gibberish. It looks like someone just smashed on the keyboard forever. Because what it is, it's the code of the image. You can go in there and just start messing with things. You can delete sections. You could copy and paste the Declaration of Independence into it. You can take images or text from another image and put it in there, and then save it and just kind of see what happens. Sometimes you can corrupt it to the point where the file won't open anymore, but sometimes you can get really cool glitches from it.
So you would save it as like a JPEG or?
Yep. So like you take a picture, you have a JPEG on your desktop, you open up the WordPad, you go to File Open, and then you select that JPEG. And then when you save it, you just make sure that you save it as a JPEG still. Don't save it as like a .text file. That's the very first way that I ever learned how to do it, was just messing with the data on the JPEG.
Yeah, wow. And what is that process called? Is that called?
I'm trying to think if there's like a fancy name for it.
Is that like data bending or something like that, or?
So data bending would be more so like what I was describing with using Audacity.
Okay.
I mean, you know, like the JPEG text edit, I guess would technically be data bending, because what you're doing is you're bending the data of a file. So yeah, actually you could describe it as that. Anytime you're messing with the code of a file to achieve a glitch effect, that is data bending.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who started this? Who started glitch art?
Oh boy. I'm trying to like, there's a really great Facebook group called the Glitch Artists Collective.
Yeah.
They're like these really great historians of the history of glitch art. I'm probably doing them a disservice right now because there's a lot of like names, but like I'm trying to think of like you can go all the way back to probably the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and people were already starting to like mess around with this stuff. Like there's these old analog synthesizers that would convert audio into kind of like a image. What was his name? The Etraizer, I think is what it's called. It kind of looks like just lines, but you can kind of see the shapes of stuff in it. And that was just done by using, like I said, a synthesizer, and it was converting sound into shape. I feel like that was kind of like the birth of it. And then I think like in the 90s, it started to become a little more popularized because people were starting to use it as an actual aesthetic. Like for instance, the band 9 Inch Nails, they were kind of using it for the imagery of their artwork, even as probably starting around like the late 90s, early 2000s. And that's actually kind of like how I probably first got into it. Nine Inch Nails is like one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And specifically, right around the late 90s, they hired a new art director, this young kid named Rob Sheridan. He actually he built a fan-made Nine Inch Nails website that Trent Reznor, the lead singer and creative mind behind Nine Inch Nails, liked so much that he hired this like fresh-faced 18-year-old kid as his art director.
That is awesome.
And he was really the one that kind of started injecting the glitch aesthetic into the Nine Inch Nails imagery. Actually, this shirt was designed by Rob Sheridan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is he's
awesome.
like one of my heroes, and he really got me into it. And I think his passion from it kind of just came from like growing up as a teenager in the 90s and kind of like seeing this relationship between humanity and technology just growing closer and closer. Like they were like probably the first teenagers to grow up with an internet connection. And I think that's kind of like really has its basis at a lot of glitch art. It's just this connection of humanity and technology. I feel like if something's around long enough, people are going to start pushing and bending and seeing how far like they can play with things.
Yeah.
It happens in all forms, rock and roll music, all art forms. Once something's been standard for so long, people want to break it. People want to push it. People want to experiment with it. And I really think that's kind of where glitch art comes from. It's like, we have all this technology around. What can we do with it? Mm-hmm. Pushing it to its limit.
So is glitch, is it also a culture? Because I mean, going back to Nine Inch Nails, like I used to listen to Nine Inch Nails all the time. And it sounds glitchy. Is there a culture? Is there an actual culture around this?
Oh, I definitely think so. Like, I think glitch as an aesthetic is permeated beyond just imagery and art. Video, music, fashion, like the way that he made this shirt is he has like an old Betamax VHS, and he would put tapes in it and play with magnets and photograph the screen. And then now we're putting it on fashion.
Yeah.
And I definitely think on top of it being an art form, like it's a mentality. It's finding beauty in destruction and then like recreating, like breaking something and then rebuilding something new out of it. It's kind of like not to get pretentious, but like a philosophy almost.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like... I guess it's definitely, like you said, kind of like a culture.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's like a world surrounding it.
Yeah. It's like making lemons out of lemonade.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. How it's a philosophy as well, which is, I mean, it's cool that you like would break something on purpose to get something beautiful out of it.
Yeah, totally. And so I think that's like, if you were to like break glitch art down to its most rudimentary elements, that's it. Breaking something and then making something new from that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't know, I want to say it's like green or recycling, but it's like using something that already, I mean, sure, at this point, people are intentionally making new things that are glitch, but I think its basis is in taking something and remixing it, reappropriating it, doing something new with something that's already there. That's really like the basis of it.
It's kind of like memes.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and like I guess that probably really sells it why it's a culture, because like for as much glitch art as there is, there's glitch art memes, there's glitch memes, like there's a totally a meme culture within it.
Oh wow, I didn't even think about that. Wow, yeah. It's kind of almost meta.
Totally. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to go back to your love of music, because you had a podcast. Tell me more about that.
This was actually, it kind of really coincides with my diving into glitch art and trying to be a professional artist for a living, I think I kind of went from 0 to 60 because not only did I start doing this 365 glitch project, but I also decided to launch a podcast right at the same time. It was, as you said, a music-based podcast. I'm not a musician by any means. I'm just a huge fan of music. So I remember it was definitely around a time I was working this dead-end landscape job, and all I did all day is listen to podcasts. And I was like, I want to make a podcast. Like, this is something I could do. It'd be fun. But what could I do that not only something that I would want to talk about, but what would people want to listen to from me? Like, anyone can make a podcast, but, and I'm not saying it was like hugely successful or anything, but I was like, it's got to be something people want to listen to. And I know it's kind of niche, but knowing me and my friends, there's people out there who want to listen to people blather on about music. And I was like, I have this really close friend who was, at this time I was living out in Pennsylvania, and he lived there with me. His name is Dominic. I actually met him. At the time, my girlfriend was going to grad school at Penn State, and he was also going to grad school at Penn State. So I met him through my girlfriend, and he was just this dude where it's like, no matter what, we could just talk about music forever. So I'm like, let's make a music discussion podcast, but it's got to have something interesting that makes it worth listening to. And at that time, I had this giant iTunes library full of music that I just collected over the years. I think it was over 60,000 songs.
God, that's a lot.
And it was so much. And that was like my thought. And it's like, I haven't even listened to like a tenth of this. Because like I was the kind of person where like I'd hear one song by a band I like, and I just download their whole discography. And I wouldn't always listen to it all. But all of a sudden I have like 8 albums by this band and 10 albums by this band. I'm like, this could be a way to try to get through this library bit. So the podcast was called Shuffle. And the reason why it was called Shuffle is before every episode, I would turn random shuffle mode on my iTunes library. I hit play, and then I hit skip 5 times. So I'd make iTunes spit at me 5 randomly shuffled songs. And no matter what those songs were, those would be the 5 songs that me and Dominic would have to talk about. So then this would happen about a week before the podcast. I'd send him the playlist. We'd both sit there and listen to the songs, kind of formulate our thoughts, and then we'd sit down and record about an hour of us just talking about what we thought about these songs. So that was kind of what the whole podcast was about.
And what was was it like all kinds of music, or was it a particular genre?
No, it was, I mean, I know everyone always likes to say, what do you listen to? Oh, I listen to everything, but like I had a very wide variety and diverse set of music on there. Like, for instance, there was lots of Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
But like my dad had like this big collection of hundreds of like religious hymns sang by like giant cathedral choirs. I had like over 120 songs of that stuff in there. There was really experimental noise music, lots of hip hop, rock and roll, indie, everything. There was even we had this reoccurring segment. So without getting into it too much, I somehow had like all of the Insane Clown Posse's music in my iTunes library, and it did pop up on the show a couple times, and it got to the point where I don't know if you've ever seen like at like a big foundry or factory, there's always like a big sign where like they'll say like, it's been blank day since our last accident.
Yeah.
We would start every episode by saying it's been blank days since our last ICP-cident, where Insane Clown Posse showed up on the podcast and we were forced to talk about Insane Clown Posse music. It only ever happened a couple times, but yeah.
Oh, that's great. I like that concept. So back to I guess because I guess this is a good time to start talking about your actual works.
Sure.
So you shared with me three works. I noticed there was like some leet-speak in there too,
Yes.
and I see that I think even your music podcast, like the official title is like a 5S,
Yep.
right? Yeah,
Yep. It
that's really
was
cool.
so yeah. It was the word shuffle, but it was spelled 5HUFFLE to signify that we'd be talking about 5 songs. So
Right.
that
Oh
was
wow, that all fits
yeah,
so well together. That's
yeah.
awesome. Like I geek out over that stuff.
No, no, totally.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe it might help to talk about like what leet speak is to the audience.
Sure. Yeah, I guess this kind of goes back to glitch and internet
Yeah.
culture. Leet
Wow.
speak is, I think at one point it was supposed to be taken seriously, but I think it kind of became a meme and kind of just became something that internet cultures do. Originally, I think the idea behind LeetSpeak was it was a way for internet hackers to communicate with each other in code. It was a way, it was very like, instead of using the letter A, we'll use the at symbol, like the email at symbol. And it was kind of a way to replace the traditional alphabet with different characters as a way to talk about hacking without being caught by the authorities. But I don't know, however, like seriously that was taken, because like if you look at LeetSpeak, the whole reason, like you can usually kind of like work out what it says. Like if you saw the word shuffle spelt with a number 5 instead of an S, you'll probably be like, oh, that's probably supposed to be an S. So I don't know if it was actually like an ever legitimate hacker language.
Yeah.
But it arrived on the internet in the 90s, and it kind of just became like this meme for internet culture, LeetSpeak. And you know, it's often stylized as 7 or L337 instead of LEET.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's just kind of like a little nod to internet culture and memes. So it often with my pieces, if I'm titling it, I'll add some leet speak in there just because I feel like my work deals with digital technology so much already as it is. And I never want to be taken too seriously, so it's kind of like a little joke. And it's an in-joke, like people who are from the internet are like, oh yeah, I remember leet speak. And then for other people who don't know what it is, I find like it's a point of interest. Like someone's like, oh, what is this gibberish? What does this mean? And it can kind of create a little spark of interest, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
That's interesting that you said it was possibly created because of, privacy concerns and things like
yeah.
that, which is that's I mean that brings us back to blockchain. Blockchain,
Crypto stuff, yeah.
yeah, yeah. The I guess the group of people that started that, I guess, would be the cypherpunks,
Sure,
and they
yeah.
talked about being able to communicate with each other in a way that was private and gave them freedom of speech, and that was really important to them. And
Totally.
blockchain came out of, was birthed out of those ideas. So that's awesome that it kind of like goes back to that.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
even like think about that connection, but that totally, yeah, like it all was probably born from the same idea of like wanting the internet to be this free place and the constant threat of it not being one.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So we kind of went on a tangent, but
Yeah,
let's go to your pieces, starting with the Franz Kafka one.
yeah.
I actually, I was like, how do I say this? How do I say this? I actually found the pronunciation for it.
Ooh,
Let me play it. I don't know if
yeah.
you can hear it, but die,
Ikafan Krum.
die Verwandlung.
There you go.
She says it faster. Die Verwandlung.
Ikafan
Yeah, so this is the title to this piece. So tell me a little bit more about it.
Sure. So this piece was for one of the many Makers Place contests that I was part of that you helped organize. At the time, we were doing a triptych series, which I really enjoyed because having gone to art school, like, you know, I learned about triptychs and art history, and it was really fun to like kind of bring a very traditional art style to kind of like this new digital crypto place. So the cool thing about the Triptych series was there was I don't remember how many, but there was a series of prompts that you guys came up with, and you came to us artists with it, and each artist could only work with one of the prompts once, but at the end there would be 3 pieces from 3 different artists that were inspired by the same prompt, and then they were displayed together as a triptych, 3 pieces set side by side. And it was so interesting to see how different artists interpreted these different prompts. The prompt for this Kafka piece was metamorphosis, and I can't remember, I definitely didn't make the first piece in the series. I think it was either the second or the third. So the cool thing about it is we got to see what the artists before we did every week. Every week we would submit one, so we got to see what was made before it. And I think it was something involving a butterfly or a caterpillar of some sort. So my mind instantly went to like, how do I use the word metamorphosis in a very different way? My mind went to Kafka's The Metamorphosis. And I guess for anyone who doesn't know, it's a very famous story about a man who wakes up in a bed to discover that he is transformed into this giant cockroach bug monster. But then he goes and lives his day, and all of his interactions with people are very ambiguous as to whether or not he's actually this bug or monster or if he's a human. And the whole time you never know if he's just going crazy or if he actually turned into this bug, and like he's being driven mad by the fact that he doesn't know if he's going mad or not. It's a brilliant, wow. I mean, I'm sure many people have read it. Metamorphosis being, insects transforming into different versions of themselves. And so I took a portrait of the author, Franz Kafka, and I did my normal glitchy thing, but something that I did a little different to it that I don't normally do is I kind of hid things in the image.
I love that.
It's subtle, but if you look very closely, there are just kind of a pile of cockroaches photoshopped in like there's a cockroach texture scattered throughout the piece. And I was hoping it would kind of, I guess I kind of ruined the secret, but similar to how the character in Kafka's book doesn't know if he's a cockroach or not, I kind of wanted people to look at it and be like, oh, is that a cockroach? Or am I just projecting that onto the piece? So
that's awesome. Yeah, I saw it yesterday and I was like, oh my God! Because I remember you mentioning it. I didn't realize it until yesterday, like to look closer. And yeah, wow, it's pretty cool. So I wish you would do that more often, actually. I love this Where's Waldo stuff.
I should. That's a great idea.
Yeah. I love eggs, like eggs.
Little
like
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs, that you'd find in movies and music, and then also art. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And is there a reason why you chose this particular description for this piece?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not going to try to...
I actually I used Google Translate. So
if you want to read it, if you have it pulled up.
I love Google Translate. They have this option where you can actually...
Gregor Samsa eines Morgens aus unruhigen Träumen erwachte, fand sich in seinem Bett zu einem ungeheuren Ungeziefer verwandelt.
Yeah, so I guess a translation would be, when Gregor Samsa woke up one morning from restless dreams, he found himself in his bed transformed into an enormous vermin. So, yeah. Yeah,
so the thing that I never realized about the metamorphosis is when Kafka wrote it, he was intentionally trying to be as misleading as possible with all of the sentences throughout the whole story. So every time you start a sentence, he's trying to create an intrigue that isn't satisfied until the very end of the sentence. So instead of simply saying he woke up as a cockroach, the word vermin isn't used to the very end of the sentence, but it's kind of a long sentence, so the whole time it's like building up this tension of he woke, like it kind of just keeps going and going, and you don't know what's happening until the very end. And I just thought that was so interesting. like that he got that specific with the sentence structure. So that's why I use that as the description of the book. Is it was just a really great example of kind of all the other themes already playing into the image and the story itself.
That is awesome. I'm glad I asked about that because
Yeah.
I did not know that. Very cool. Let's go to your next pieces. So these were part of the series 7, right?
Correct.
And I see a lot of leet-speak.
Lots of leet-speak.
And Nine Inch Nails lyrics.
Yes. It all comes
cool.
back around.
Yeah. Tell us more about these.
So the series 7 was again another prompted series from Maker's Place. In this one, the idea was a pool of different themes were presented to us artists, and we had to choose one, and then for 7 weeks straight, we had to make a piece that was related to that theme. And the idea is that at the end you would have a series of 7 pieces that kind of conceptually fit together. And the theme that I chose was augmented humanity. And what I really liked about it is like you didn't give us any more than that, so like we weren't being biased by like, what do you mean by augmented humanity? We just had the phrase augmented humanity, and then we were left to interpret it however we saw fit. And so actually both of these pieces are from the other 2 pieces of the 3 are from this series. And I know the phrase augmented humanity kind of just really jumped out at me because it's stuff that I'm already so interested in, the fusion of technology and humanity and cybernetics and cyberpunk and cyborgs. And I kind of just wanted to explore all the different ways that kind of the line between humanity and technology is blurring more and more every day. So which of the 2 are you looking at right now?
Let's see. I now am looking at...
I just don't want to talk about the wrong one.
Augmented human... It says 3 at the end. I don't know.
Okay,
it's
yes.
leet-speak,
yep.
so I'm
yep. So the nice thing, so all 7 of them almost have the same title. This one is leet-speak for Augmented Humanity 1, is what it says. The last characters are 0 ////3.
Right, it spells out 1. Got it.
It takes a second. In the description, I put a normal title where it just says Augmented Humanity 1.jpg.
Yeah.
So this one was the very first idea that came into my head after hearing this prompt, because Nine Inch Nails has this great song off of the Downward Spiral called The Becoming, which is this very dramatic and dark, brooding song about, I mean, it's literally about a guy who's becoming into a machine, but, you know, metaphorically, it's just kind of about how horribly sad and jaded Trent Reznor is, to the point where he's a cold, unfeeling machine because, you know, he's upset about something. I'm not trying to belittle it, but it's kind of working on multiple levels. But like, if you look at the lyrics of the song, it's literally talking about this man becoming a machine, and like his body insides being replaced with wires instead of bones and blood vessels and stuff. And I made this image of a man kind of on his knees who's just completely wrapped and cocooned in wires and phones and power cords, and he's got a VR set on his head. And I just kind of thought it was kind of like this perfect representation of augmented humanity, because I think for as much good as humans and technology coming together that there can also be a lot of bad. I mean, there's kind of some obvious metaphors of like people being sucked on their phones and social media, and some of the obvious like downfalls of technology on the planet. So I think it's kind of a pretty blatant metaphor of technology enslaving humanity in some ways, and kind of some of the negative things it can do to us.
Yeah, you definitely see that in the piece. Very cool. So let's go to that next piece.
Sure.
And that would be 4
Correct.
spelled out.
Yep. Augmented Humanity 4.
Yeah.
So this is another song from the same series, inspired by another Nine Inch Nails song. This one is from a song called In This Twilight, which is off of the Nine Inch Nails album Year Zero. Year Zero, very coincidentally, is a concept album that kind of is supposed to be taking place. The album came out in 2007, but it's supposed to be about like the year 2020, 2021, and it's kind of about this bleak, dark future that humanity is heading towards. There's a lot
Interesting.
of very scary allusions to what we're living in now, with like a very divided country and what some might say a tyrant in the office, and race wars, and also just the planet being decimated by pollution. And this song, In This Twilight, is kind of this really somber piece about the world getting past the point of no return and just kind of sitting back and watching everything come to an end. Kind of being like, well, we messed up. Let's just sit back and let it happen. And the image is a figure in a gas mask kind of looking up at a very polluted, corrupt sky, just kind of being like, what else can you do?
I was going to say,
nihilistic.
This is a very familiar scene.
Yes.
I've been seeing a lot of
lots of gas
this lately.
masks. I mean, you know, ironically, these pieces were made before this crazy year of 2020's happened. It's just very apt that it's happening now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, wow. Awesome. All right. So I guess we can this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess for now, our next step would be actually talking about blockchain.
Sure.
So you are a blockchain artist.
Yes.
Can you tell me how you actually got into it? Like,
sure.
The story behind
Yeah. So like, I will preface this by saying, like, I'm still learning a lot about blockchain technology in the crypto world. It's still new to me, but
Everyone is.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, like, so I'd say it was about a year and a half ago. I mean, I knew what the word Bitcoin meant. Like, I knew that much, but even still, like, at that point, like, I hadn't got my head around, like, what do you mean it's money you can't hold and it exists online? And I remember just spending, like, I try to watch all these YouTube videos that try to explain to me, like, how you mine a Bitcoin. And, like, all these people were buying these fancy gaming computers to mine Bitcoins. And I was like, what does that even mean? And so I had joined this social media platform called Ello, E-L-L-O. People don't know what it is. I'd say, like, back in, like, 2013, it was being marketed and sold as this alternative to Facebook. It was supposed to be, like, very minimal. We're not going to sell your data. It's going to be, like, very transparent and open and free. And it's supposed to be kind of like a refreshing social media platform that's not what Facebook has become. And this was back in, like, 2013. This was before even Facebook was where it's at now. And I don't think they had a lot of success. Because I remember, like, I got into, like, the beta for it. Like, I got to early test it because I had a friend who had gotten one and gave me a pass. And, you know, it was cool, but it was just another social media platform. And I had kind of forgotten about it. And I thought it had died off. And then I noticed another artist friend of mine was posting on Facebook, like, hey, check out my Ello page. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about Ello. And then I looked into it, and they had kind of rebranded themselves as an artist social media platform. Kind of like DeviantArt, but maybe a little more classy and a little more, I don't want to say respectable, but DeviantArt has its own stuff going on. less furry art, I guess. And so like I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I started uploading my art to it. And Elo has this cool system where people can reach out to you if they want to hire you or work with you on anything. And I got an email about something called Maker's Place. And I had gotten other emails from people saying, hey, check out our new platform. And like, honestly, I kind of disregarded it and kind of put it on my mind. And then I have this glitch art friend who his artist name is Cyber Art by Justin. Check him out. His stuff is great. And he had posted about how he had just won a contest on Maker's Place. And I was like, that name sounds so familiar to me. And so I kind of asked him about it. He's like, oh yeah, it's this kind of this, they call it crypto art. And he invited me to their Discord server. And I popped in and I was like, God, this sounds so familiar. And then it clicked. It was like, oh wait, these are the people that reached out to me on Elo. And then I looked in my email folder and I had gotten like 7 emails from Maker's Place. And I had just assumed it was like an automated thing. But no, like they were actually all worded differently. And it was like, hey Jared, just wanted to make sure, did you check that out yet? And I was like, oh wow. And then I remember I messaged you and you got me all signed up. And yeah, it was about a year and a half. It was like at the beginning of
March.
Yeah, it was like the beginning of last spring, end of winter. And that was the beginning of my crypto art career, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realize like how close. I thought you were on there before I was. I don't know why I thought that. And because like you have to understand, like Jared is an awesome ambassador.
Oh, thank you.
Like even before we gave you that official title of ambassador, you were already just naturally helping people and you had a pretty good grasp. You had a pretty good grasp of the platform. And so it was just automatically like the first name that popped up when I was like, we need people to help us
Sure.
on the Discord, on our Discord, to grow the community and help with support and stuff. And that was something you were just naturally doing. So we wanted to like officially give you that title. And
Well, thank you very much.
yeah. So like, being a part of the Discord community, you see a lot of what doing support. You see a lot of what the artists are having struggles with, challenges, things like that. And also, personally, I would love to hear like your point of view of like what those struggles are working with blockchain and what you see like the artists overall who join the Maker's Place Discord community, what their struggles and challenges are.
Sure. Well, I think the first and biggest hurdle that any person new to Maker's Place or the crypto art world is going to get over is just understanding how it all works. Being someone who grew up on the internet and then being an artist on the internet, I felt like I had a really good grasp of how internet communities work, how internet platforms work, and blockchain technology is very different from other things. Simply put, I'm used to like I have a print shop where it's a Society6 page where you can buy prints of my work. I'm very used to going on Society6, uploading a piece, and then boom, it's in my shop. You go to Maker's Place and you upload a piece, and depending upon the gas price that day, it might pop up in 10 seconds, it might be 3 hours, it might be a week. And just that was something completely new and alien to me, is like gas prices and the fact that, since Maker's Place is nice enough to pay the gas price fee for uploading it, they have a system set in place where the price of gas has to drop below a certain threshold before a transaction will go through. And then not only that, but even after it goes through, anytime you make a change to your piece, like that was another thing that was very new to me. It's like, oh, once you upload this, it's there forever until you burn it out of the blockchain. You can't go in and change the title. Oh, there's a typo in the description. Well, you should have double checked it before you hit submit because it's permanent. That was something very new to me also. Especially, it makes so much sense, but it's very backwards from the digital mindset because like one of the best things about going to like digital photography is the undo button. And that doesn't really exist in blockchain technology. And so it's kind of really awesome that blockchain can kind of be this marriage of, well, especially speaking about crypto art specifically. I'm not speaking for all blockchain, but like there's so much tradition and history and art of like painting and printmaking where you have unique one-of-a-kind things, and then digital came along and killed that idea. And now blockchain is, with crypto art, is bringing that back, but like that's still also one of the things I feel like the other big hurdle is just really trying to conceptualize what it is someone is buying and selling. It's so foreign and such a weird idea of this thing I can't hold, but it's a unique one-of-a-kind thing that no one else possibly owns. And then just the endless sea of skeptics that you talk to on Discord. It's like, well, what's to stop me from selling this somewhere else? What's to stop me from doing this and that? And then just trying to explain how until you understand how a blockchain works, of course you're going to think no one's going to buy this. But then once you understand, it's like, wow, this is actually a really cool, unique, one-of-a-kind thing that's more secure than anything else online. Like every time I upload something to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, literally anyone could just grab that and put it on their website and said, I made this, not Jared. And that it's so ironic that that's like the first person's like the skeptic's argument is to be like, what's to stop someone from doing that? And when it actually inherently blockchain and crypto is to stop that. That can't happen because there's a unique one-of-a-kind ID and address associated with that piece that even if you take a screenshot of it, you don't own that because you have to own the address and it needs to be in a crypto wallet, which is like one of the most secure things of all time. And I don't really understand that stuff anyway, but I know that like you can't steal a Bitcoin, you can't steal a crypto art piece. Like that's just not how the blockchain works.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you are essentially creating a new value system, right?
Yeah.
So we all value like this piece of paper, like, you know, the dollar, and the dollar has a particular serial number. And if there's another dollar that has that same serial number, it's like, okay, it's counterfeit.
Yep.
Like, so it kind of is like it's basically the digital version of that. And they're both, you know, like those are like use cases. There's the cryptocurrency, and then there's also art. They're both the same kind of similar use cases. So
totally.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the other thing, kind of just going on what you were just saying, like, I feel like people just assume that paper money has value because it's always had value. When really, the phrase legal tender means as an American, at least in America, as an American citizen, you legally have to accept this as money because the law requires it. So you're basically saying, I give that value, therefore it has value. The same thing works with crypto art. As long as a group of people agree something has value, it has value. And it's actually just way more secure and safe. I just think people don't realize like it's the same thing just because one's been around forever and the other one's a new thing. Everyone's scared of the new thing.
Yeah. People are scared of change. But I do love that, like that idea of, you know, we have to agree on it. You know, we have to agree on it. We don't have to like have someone else tell us, hey, you got to agree on this.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a cool concept.
Well, yeah, it's so cool because rather than being told to do something, you have a choice and a say. You have like the personal freedom and you can be part of it rather than being told something is. You're choosing to it. You're like, you should feel more connected to it, if anything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so like, is there, so I wanted to like differentiate, like, is there anything, because I'm not sure if this is your personal view on struggles of blockchain. I mean, are you seeing this as well with, is there an overall like struggle that you're seeing with the artists that you're supporting in the Discord community?
Um, I will say it's been very interesting because of how fast blockchain is like growing as a thing right now. Back 2 Marches ago, I feel like literally every question that I was answering was something kind of that I was just speaking about. It was a skeptic coming on saying, "Why would I do this?" Or someone saying, "I just uploaded my piece. Why isn't it up already?" Like that. That is was by far like the most frequently asked question. It's been very interesting to see like now, like a year and a half later, I feel like so many more people are coming into at least make. I should say most of my experience is all through Maker's Place. I can't speak to like.
Like Known Origin or Super
Yes,
Rare,
yeah,
or
I
the
don't
other
use a lot
platforms.
of those, so I don't know how those platforms are working. But with Maker's Place, a lot of people are coming in already aware of crypto art. Like I feel like back when I
Mm.
joined, you guys and the team are doing a really good job of like finding artists that weren't in the crypto world and bringing them into the crypto world. And I feel like the ball's gotten rolling enough now where they're not having to pull in so much because enough attention's already been brought to it where people are coming in knowing about crypto art a bit at least. And yes, I still think those questions come up, but I feel like the conversation has kind of moved now because a lot of people kind of have that nice foundation of what blockchain technology is. And now it's kind of opening the room up to rather than being like how to sell crypto art, it's what sells best as crypto art. Like it's becoming more about what the art is and what's how to price things. It's a lot. It's to bring the word like philosophy back. It's more about the philosophy of it rather than just kind of like the rudimentary math of how it works. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's good progress.
Yeah.
I guess that would be a good way to like segue into like the joys and the benefits that you've seen for yourself
Sure.
and also overall what you're seeing with the community. Is there anything else like you can add to that?
Yeah. I mean, this is very just personally speaking. I can't speak for all crypto artists, but like as someone who I feel like in this day and age, if you're going to be like a creative, you're constantly doing multiple things. Like we no longer like live in the world where like you can just do one thing and like that's it. Like you have to be a marketing person and you have to be on social media and you know I'm selling prints on Society 6 and I'm selling digital cards on Neon Mob, so it's like everyone's kind of doing multiple things. I can personally say that in the year and a half that I've been doing crypto art, it's been like the most lucrative market that I've been selling in.
Wow.
I've had more success selling art as a crypto artist than as a fine artist selling prints on a digital store. I I mean, I guess I don't want to like speculate too much, but I just think there's a great market for it, and there's a lot of people with cryptocurrency that want to buy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I just think the problem is like there's so many artists out there who are just trying to sell art to other artists, and we're all starving artists. So it's like no one has the money to buy anybody's stuff. When you are pairing art with something that is inherent, like I guess I don't know a lot about blockchain, but I think like it was invented for like cryptocurrency, right? Like was that the
That was the
first in
original.
so when you're adding art to like a technology whose original basis was money, it makes sense that there's money in that market. I
Yeah.
think personally, and I also just think that there's an inherent appreciation for digital art in the crypto world since they're so closely united. The digital technology, digital art, it makes sense, and I think it's also just like this very new and exciting thing, and I think people want to be in on the ground floor of what's going to be the next big thing. And just already saying how, like, in the past year and a half it's grown, I think it's just going to keep growing. And I think it's going to get to the point where when I tell someone I'm a crypto artist, instead of them saying, what's a crypto artist, they'll be like, oh, that's so cool that you're a crypto artist, because it's like an actual term that people know. I mean, I'm still, like, last summer my parents came out to visit me, and I think we had like a 3-hour conversation with me trying to just describe to them what crypto art is and what I'm selling, because it was just completely over their head. But now they know, and they think it's awesome. And so, yeah, I think I've had overall a very good experience with being a crypto artist. And, you know, just like I feel like any creative endeavor, there's highs and lows. It's something you got to stay on top of. If you're not keeping up with it, you're going to fall into the sea of noise of the thousands of other artists that are putting stuff out there. But that's not unique to crypto art. Just like any Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everyone is constantly putting out content. You got to keep up with it to stay visible. I guess one of my only, I don't want to say criticisms, but like, you know, I've noticed some trends in what sells better. And I guess I don't want to come across as shallow, because I feel like some people might get a bad taste in their mouth if I'm just talking about making art for the sake of selling it. Like, you know, art should be about art for art's sake. But at the same time, my personal goal is to make a living as an artist where I can not starve to death and make art at the same time. So it is very important to me how much money I can make off of it. And there are trends that I can see that pop up in crypto art of what sells better and what doesn't. And that's fine, because I feel like that's kind of like any bubble. I feel like there's going to be a popular thing, and then all of a sudden the market's going to get oversaturated and it's going to burst. So I've found, as long as I stay away from those trends and just keep making my own stuff, I might not be making the most giant, huge sales ever, but I'd rather have like constant, steady stuff than like lots here and then nothing afterwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what, I guess what, we're coming to the end of this video podcast. So I guess my question would be, what would you tell an artist just coming into the space, the blockchain space? What would be your advice?
My advice would be, the first thing is, there's such a great community surrounding crypto art. There are so many people that are willing to help, but you just have to not be afraid to ask questions. I think you just need to accept that this is a big, weird, new, scary world, and every crypto artist out there was just a scared, confused newbie like you at one point. The only reason why I became an ambassador at Maker's Place is because I asked so many questions that I learned things, and then when I saw the questions I was asking a week before being asked, and one of the staff members was busy doing something else, I could answer that question for them. That's the only way you're going to learn. It's confusing, but I promise you it will make sense. And then just don't get discouraged. Stay with it. I feel like so many, and this could be talked about any creative venture outside of just uploading crypto art. I feel like there's so many people that are infatuated with this idea of fame and success right away. And if you are hoping to just explode and get famous and popular and make a ton of sales right away, you're probably just setting yourself up for disappointment. Yes, some people will do that, but that's very circumstantial. I feel like you can't plan for that. I feel like the best thing to do is to like stay on the grind, keep making the art that you would want to buy, and the audience will follow. The success will follow. The sales will follow. You're going to do so much better with a strong set of work than like trying to make a viral hit. Any person who's ever sat down and like, I'm going to make a viral YouTube video, I can guarantee you they did not make a viral YouTube video. You can't catch that lightning in a bottle. What you can do is practice, refine your work, and make just a really strong set of pieces, and then people will buy them because there's people out there that want cool new crypto art. There's totally a market for it. You just got to make the stuff for it, and the people will come for it. That's what I would say.
Awesome. And also, you know, I do want the developers of blockchain technology to also, like, you know, hear what you have to say.
Sure.
You know, so what would your advice be to people who are actually, you know, trying to make this software, this technology better for artists?
I would say that you shouldn't be afraid to pour resources into some sort of community manager person. Kind of like what your role was at Maker's Place. I feel like the Discord group was kind of this giant group of people who were kind of scared and confused. And the more, I don't want to say hand-holding, but like, and I also don't want to like speak poorly on Maker's Place, but it's hard because Maker's Place is my only experience. I feel like so much frustration comes from this lack of communication, because there's this technology that a lot of people don't understand, and there's all these users trying to use it, and then when something doesn't work, it's like it can feel like radio silence sometimes. And I will give Maker's Place props. They have brought more people on board, and there's a much better flow of communication between the users and the developers at this point now. I just feel like it took a while for them to get there, and obviously they're doing well. The numbers keep growing, but I'm just afraid of how many people maybe got turned off from it because it was like, I submitted my application 2 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything about it, and then when I come on here, which is really the only place you've directed me to ask questions, no one's answering my questions. And the ambassadors, you know, they're there every day and they're really great at answering like little questions, but when it comes to stuff about why is my profile still not visible, why are my pieces still pending after a month, we can't answer those questions because we're not staff members. And I know the Maker's Place team is swamped and busy and small, and I know you only have so many resources that can be allocated in certain ways, but I would say, if possible, put an emphasis on that, because without users, you're not going to have anything. You need a group of people using your service if you want your service to continue. And I know when you're just launching a company, there's probably so many thousands of things that feel like they take priority before that. Like, and of course, you know, you want to make sure everything's running smoothly, but unless you have people to use it, what's the point of having it? So just try to make sure that you're taking care of, like, Maker's Place did a really great job of bringing all these people on board, but then I feel like we were kind of like left in this room, and then like every once in a while, like someone would be like, oh, we'll be right with you. It'll just be 5 more minutes, and we're all just kind of like, okay. So,
yeah,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, those are definitely the challenges of being a startup.
Totally. Yeah, I'm not trying to throw a bunch of shade or anything, because I know everyone was probably, like, no one sets out to be like, let's bring a bunch of people on board and then ignore them. There's no way that was the intent. Everyone was just doing the best they can. So I was just saying, if you're a new company from the get-go, if possible, try to establish a strong sense of communication between the users and the developers, because especially if you're a startup, your users are going to help shape what your company becomes. And it might not seem as important, but it feels important being on the other side. Like, still, at this point, even though a lot of people understand crypto, I still feel like most of the questions are, why haven't I heard from anybody? What's taking so long? Kind of maybe just a little more transparency I guess would be a good way to put it. I don't know. I don't mean to like ramble on about
No,
this,
no,
but
no, no.
yeah,
We
that's
we
kind of
definitely we definitely need to hear that. I think it's really important for developers to hear it actually from like someone who is not in the blockchain space already, someone who's
yeah.
not a blockchain nerd or
Yeah, I
geek.
knew nothing about it before Maker's Place.
Yeah, I think that is so important. Your point of view regarding this whole situation. Like I myself am pretty much the same type of person. Like I don't really understand 90% of the conversations that happen at blockchain meetups,
Sure.
but I understand like the principles and I do believe that, people like you, people like me, were important bridges between, the regular
Yeah,
world and
totally.
the blockchain world. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared. I think it would be really good to like talk about like where can people find you?
sure. So my screen name handle that I go by is my name with no vowels, Jared Scott. So it's jrdsctt. I can promise you, if you go on any platform whatsoever and type that in, you will find me. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Maker's Place, my website, jrdscott.com. I made a really, I don't know if it was a good idea, but I made a decision a very long time ago to brand myself. Is that it's kind of paid off. If you just Google
Yeah.
jrdsctt, everything about me will pop up. I'm pretty active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Maker's Place. That's my handle on Discord too, if anyone wants to ask me anything. But yeah, Jared Scott.
And also, he has an exhibit currently in Crypto Voxels, again, in the Doom District for one of Maker's Place's galleries.
Yep.
So it's a great place to actually check out his work. And also on makersplace.com as well, if
Thank
you
you.
look up
Yeah.
Jared Scott.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of pieces on there because of that 100-day project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I guess that's it.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
If you haven't already, click on that subscribe button. Thank